What's up, everybody? Welcome to Inside the Seams, where we bring hitters and pitchers together to talk about the game so it can grow. I'm really excited about this episode. You're going to love it. Let's get going. What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Inside the Seams, where we bring hitters and pitchers together to really just talk about baseball and grow as baseball players and people so you can become the best player or coach that you can. So with me, I got Jon, my boy, as always, right? And we've actually got a couple people that we're gonna that are on here as well that are gonna be guests. So I'm gonna throw it to Jon. This is one of Jon's favorite people in the world, and so just gonna let him introduce, and then we'll just jump right in. Y'all are gonna enjoy this. It's going to be great. So Jon, go ahead.
All right on, guys. Welcome to Fuel Factory. We're here today. We have Mark Krueger down here, Patrick Curtis here, who we call Sifu. Marky does a lot of our hitting stuff, runs a lot of our camps. He's also an in-house closer when he wants to be. So, and then Sifu has been with us for almost a year and a half now. He helps with our animal conditioning, animal yoga flow, and we just have a lot of fun together. We also have some Chun Kwa instruction that goes on in here that Patrick leads as well. So I'm just excited to have him on here to share some of what we're doing here and maybe shed some light on things that are going to help you guys out there.
Yeah, I love that, man. I think it'll be, it's just like we talked about before, right? On some of these others, like the mental part of it, the bridging the mental and the physical is such a important thing. And I know that y'all do a great job of that over there. So Patrick, kind of tell us a little bit about like yourself and how you got into what you do now, and what are you why are you passionate about it? Just anything like that, man. I know we'd love to hear about it.
Sure. Without making it a 2-hour dissertation, I grew up in this. So it started about the age of 12 for me. I got into the arts very young. When I say the arts, it's the Ome arts. It's rooted in Ome. And it was the Shaolin, Tibetan, and the Tao styles. So it was a combination. It was a family style that was passed down from generation to generation. I'm third-ish generation, and I grew up in it and love the arts. But it was something that I took with me into my sport. Now, I played Little League baseball, but I wasn't a baseball with these pros like sitting right next to me. But when I played ball, it not only preserved me, but it helped me in every aspect of the game. I went on to play for University of Arizona. We won the Pac-10 championship then. So there was it was quality. It just preserved me from having to having a lot of injuries. Later on in life, life happens, things go on. And it got to a place where I think everybody kind of gets it. When an athlete leaves the sport, when something happens, they kind of go through that depression. They kind of like, okay, what do I do for the rest of my life? What am I going to do? It's hard to function outside of the game. It really is, the training and everything that goes with it. And so, many years later, I was up to 310 pounds. I lost my way. I mean, I went through the whole thing like anyone else has at one point or another. And then I just had to rediscover myself again. And in that process, I went back to my roots. Something that we say here, we say return to our genesis. And the word genesis is actually not beginning. It means to your making. Mm-hmm. So I had to go back to my making. And then I learned, it was like Mr. Brown, who was my Sifu, my mentor. It was his voice in my head, saying, go back to your roots. And it was believe it or not, during the COVID that what I did was I just took, and I don't think nothing is necessarily new under the sun. It's just the way it was processed and how it came about. I believe that what most things are doing is coming from something that is much older than what we're doing today. Okay. We may modify it, we may change it a little bit, but I just took basically the animal styles that we've learned over the years, and then I just broke them down into more of a modern method of exercise and stretch. And then broke that down. And then it was a friend of ours, both of ours really, that introduced us. And when we came together, it was as if we'd known each other forever.
Love that.
And I just came in, and all I did, I'm not a baseball player. I don't profess myself to be. In fact, when I'm here, I tell everybody, look, I'm not here to change your pitch. I'm not trying to change who you are, what you are, or anything of this nature. I'm here just basically seeing what I see in your body and how it can be transferred into more power, more strength, more speed, more spin, and everything else that needs to be done here. And so that's kind of how it started. And the passion of mine is for the athlete. I mean, I help people in general. I mean, just the everyday individual that is out there, and I have that. But my passion for the athlete is more important than anything else. Okay. Because I think today, as far as what I've been hearing over a year and a half, especially for baseball, if I'm correct, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but there's a lot of these guys that are going into a game where they have all these things that are going on for them, and they have all of this stuff, and especially when they're coming straight into the game, you know, you got millions of dollars, and now what are you going to do with it?
It's truth.
And what I do is not just conditioning of the body, but it's conditioning of the mind, the will, and the emotions.
That's right.
And there's a difference. So I don't profess myself, like I don't stand around going, hey, look at me, and you know, running around with my shirt off or something like that. And hey, you know, it has nothing to do with me. It has everything to do with the athlete. My passion is for the athlete. And my goal is I'm taking this. This is not an if. I will take this nationally. Right. I will bring this to every athlete possible because I think it's necessary. And again, it's not just about the body. It's about the mind, the will, and the emotions. Right. And that's kind of where it lies right now.
I love that, man. And I think a lot of, I would say not like the amateur side, right? When I call amateur, I'm like more talking like high school, college, right? I think a lot of those kids are starting to figure that out a little bit. That hey, those are different. Hey, like I have to have a shutoff valve. Hey, I have to, you know, understand who I am that day. I have to understand how to regulate that. I have to understand how to get back to my roots, stay who I am, be able to come back to that. Because I think what's so cool about what you said is that so many athletes after career, I would say almost 100%, go through a span of probably legitimate depression. And it's because I think a lot of it is the lacking of the tools of the kind of things that you're talking about and teaching, right? Because like when I talk to guys that are, you know, getting ready to finish, it's like, look, everything that you've done in your sport, you can funnel that into a business. You can funnel that into fitness. You can funnel it, right? It's really just changing where the dam is, right? Before it was, hey, I'm going to go practice this, practice that. Now I'm going to go and I'm going to do X with it, right? So I think that is such an important thing. And as you have the younger you have that perspective, the earlier you have that perspective, I think it flips the game for you too. You know, because like even something as simple as like I use John's 3 in, 3 out all the time, 3 seconds in, 3 seconds out on the breath, and like it's just like those kids that. The resetting of the mind, right? And the baying of the emotion at that point, and being able to just stay where your feet are and just do what's right in front of you, and then just do it again, and then just do it again. It's crazy, right? Everybody thinks it's a complete mechanical adjustment. There's always things that you're going to have to fix, right? Technical things, but the mind, will, and the emotion part is just so important. So I love that, man. So John, kind of talk about like how y'all met. What were you drawn to with him, and just anything like that, man?
Yeah, so a mutual buddy, Cameron Lowe, came in. And
Cam. Yeah, that's cool.
Just said we had to meet. We got to have him on too because he's awesome. But we basically met and we just started chatting. I mean, to be honest, it was pretty much instant. I mean, Marky did the training as well, so we'd go through. We had about 9 or 10 of us that were going through the animal conditioning because we wanted to learn it. And then it was Mark that said, hey, I feel like we just went through a pitching lesson right there. Just because it was like circles and breath and, you know, efficiency and stability and like just so many characteristics that we look to develop in especially our youth pitchers. And then from there, it's been a cooperation because I think we both, or all of us, have a mutual respect for each other, but also we have a common goal, which Patrick was talking about with the athlete is our focus here, right? And that's why it's called Fuel Factory. It's not called Mark's Hitting Lab or Sifu's Leopard Jungle or Zinger's Pitching Lab. It's like, no, it's Fuel Factory because we made it that in the first place because it's about the guys that walk in here. You know, we're going to treat you the same whether you're 8 years old or whether you're a professional.
Right.
And we kind of expect that to be around here too. Like there's a mutual respect. And I think that's where, I mean, the kids that have been around us, it's just been awesome because it's a cooperation and it's not like one person's in charge of everything. It's like, no, we talk about things before we do them. And sometimes we ad lib in the moment, or sometimes we have to count for him because he's teaching somebody technique. And it's like, okay, for one of us, we'll continue to count the reps, but it's just it's a fun team. You know, we're having a blast. So
yeah, I love that. Yeah, it's so for those of y'all that haven't seen, go on Jon's YouTube channel. They did some like live workout stuff, and I'm telling you, it is. I've done a lot of workouts, done a lot of things, and it just like I don't even know how to describe it. It is the most intense, awesome, tiring, like all these cool but awesome things, right? So if you haven't seen it, go check it out. So
it's very humbling too, right? Like
I believe it.
How many times you've done it, it's like, you know, I think it's even like baseball where it's like this game humbles you. No matter how good you are, you throw the perfect pitch and maybe he puts the perfect swing on it too, and it's see you later baseball, you know, or you know, just any of those kind of things. I feel like the carryover from all of this stuff together is just so fun.
Yeah, I love that. So Mark, Jon said that y'all went through this and you said that felt like a pitching lesson. So what kind of brought that comment about?
It was more so the movements and what we were doing. I think it was one of the first workouts we ever did in here, and Patrick had no idea about pitching, anything baseball. He's played a little bit, but like kind of in depth with what we know. Some of the movements we did were just so similar. It was like things we talk about, like letting the backside set, front side down. Just every move that we did, it was all connected and all had some form of connection to it. And I felt like I literally went through a pitching lesson, learning about body movement and things like that, and had no idea.
I love that. Yeah, it's awesome, guys. Like I would, I mean, I'll plug it right now, right? But if you guys haven't seen it, go watch it. And like, you know, get in contact with Patrick, man, because it's just, I don't know, it's just like I said, I've done a lot of different kind of workouts, and it just looks so you could just look at stuff and know it's awful. Like like you could just look at it and it's just like, oh my gosh, like
I tell everyone in here to embrace the suck.
Oh, you have to. You have like you could just see it, right? I'm like, dude, my legs would be shaking just like that cat's. Like there's no way. Like, but it's awesome, right? Because then it allows you've got the but then it plays back into that mind, will, and emotion part that you mentioned, right? So how have you seen, Patrick? How have you seen that the physical demand, right? How have you seen that help train people in the other three things like mind, will, and emotion, right? How have you seen with the baseball guys specifically, right? How have you seen that kind of help them or affect them?
Sure. The way the animals work, and I know we're bringing it to a very basic understanding. So when you're talking about, say, tiger, and I'm going to use tiger, I'll use a ape, and I use crane as through the major three examples. Tiger is all about structure. It's about the strength of bone. So structure is not just structure in the body. It's structure of the mind. It's structure of the will. It's structure of the emotions. I'm going to kind of get into a little bit of, you know, where this comes from in my art. So tiger is the seat of emotions. It's the seat of the heart. It's the seat of all things that when it comes out, it's the drive. It's tiger that stands on the mountain. We talk about, you know, the pitcher being on the mound. That is the mountain. It shouldn't matter who comes to the plate. You know, it should not matter.
That's right.
It should not matter. You own that mountain. And if you have to come off the mountain, there must be a reason why. And so the emotional aspect of Tiger in of itself is drawing out the raw passion, the raw energy. You know, we have a lot of them that have come in and, you know, they love the game, but sometimes it's almost like you have to reignite the passion. And Tiger, though it's very hard, and yes, it does tax you, is to reignite that. And so it's watching the individuals, because when I watch their body, it's almost like a psychology, because then I'm studying basically where they are at emotionally. I'm studying where they at on a mental level, on the will aspect of it. Is it, you know, what's the will? What is the determination? What's your end game here? And then, you know, understanding all of this, you know, the mental clarity. Whereas in ape is about the balance, rather more or less the root. Let me say that. It's probably a better term. It's really about the root. It is about what's grounding you, what's holding you, what keeps you. Is your root strong enough? And that again translates into the mind, will, and the emotional aspect of everything. So when they perform these moves, I'm studying them. I'm watching them. Watch how they breathe. Are they breathing? You know, I have crane, you know, and of course we got more than one animal, but crane is all about, we call the third eye, the consciousness of man and how they look. You see, crane only looks forward and up. It's not going to necessarily always look down. So when it's going forward, it's expansion, it's creativity. What's before you? Your eyes are always before you. The eye, you know, so it's about the balance, though. It's about the balance of the body, the mind, or in this case, the soul and the spirit. And when I say spirit, it's the spirit of the man. It's the spirit of the warrior or the spirit of the individual that has to come out. What's driving? The seat is the soul. So the pendulum, if you will, that holds is binding is the soul. So the soul is either going to respond to the body or it's going to respond to you as an individual.
That's good.
And so we want to basically be able to make a complete individual. I'm not here to, you know, I don't argue with the science. I'm not arguing with this, but what I am going to do is find out where you are psychologically, because I believe the individual is more important than the actual form.
That's right. I love that, man. That's so great. You know, I say it very, very less cool than that. But I'll say, like, you know, because I'm more on the hitting side, right? But I'll say essentially, like, if you are elite up here, everything else you can make up for a lot of things. I think what it is though it's driving from the lower part. You know, we call it the Dantian. Yep.
The Dantian is the life force. Dantian means basically life force. The grounding, the holding is here in the lower Dantian. Your breath comes from there. It doesn't come up here. It's down here. Your breath. When I always talk about, like, let's change the air you breathe. And they're like, what's that? And it basically change your energy, change your thoughts, and then change your actions. So in other words, I'm changing all three. But to do that, I have to find my root and then be able to draw it up through. You then, if you've got no root, if you have no root, then your emotions are off, your mind is off. And you can see that it translates even in those situations. I mean, I've had kids as well as pros. I have actually and these guys know, we'll get them, we always do a circle. We call it the circle of lions. We all get into this circle, and then I'm walking around and I'm like, what did you learn? What did you learn? And then there'll be times when I just know what I'm seeing, and I'll look at them, I call them out and literally read their mail right in front of everyone. And I don't even know them. And it's all because of what's going on in this circle.
That's right.
What we do here. Because it's not just me, it's us. I mean, I understand, and I'm kind of explaining, but it really is the fact that they are allowing me to do what I know to do. And then what I do is I translate what I know to them. And then they're able to take that through the practice and through the training as far as like the actual pitch, through the actual motion. And then all I'm doing is going, okay, you know, maybe try their foot position, load up, and then doing that. That's allowing more energy flow to cross. That's good. So then they translate.
That's good. I love that. Yeah, and I think that's such an important thing for everybody to kind of hear is the point of origin of these kind of things like that, right? Everything comes from something, right? That sounds like a extremely stupid statement, right? But everything has an origin, right? And so like it's so important to get to a deep part of that, because if not, you're just cutting off a leaf, you're cutting off a branch, right? It's like, let's go to the trunk is maybe even a little bit too high, right? We gotta get that what's down in there to be healthy, and understanding, so that flow works right and all, because without it, you're just treading water, right? And I think a lot, at least on the hitting side, and I'm sure someone on the pitching side, right? And Mark, you feel free to jump in on this too, but I know that like a lot of kids and professionals, it's a mechanical fix, right? Or it's a quick fix, and it's a this, and it's like, really, like, man, like most of the time I'm trying to figure out where your head's at. I'm asking you questions, I'm watching your body language. I'm very similar, right? Read the person, because the person produces the movements, not the other way around, right? And so it's like, where is it coming from? What's your mind, like what's rolling through the front part of your brain, right? What is your subconscious feeding the front part of your brain, because you're producing that, right? It's the same deal as somebody who tries to stop doing drugs. Well, if all they think about is I'm going to stop doing drugs, the controlling idea of their entire self is drugs. So all they're thinking about, their whole entire self is dominated by that. And of course you're going to do it because you're dominated by it, right? As opposed to the other, right? And I think that that's something that like so many kids, so many guys miss. It's like, well, I don't want to do this. Well, how can that process through and just like let that stuff come out? How can that happen with that? Like you're literally sabotaging yourself.
Well, it's ego. Let's
right.
call it.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right.
It's this complete 100% ego. Yep. I mean, I know it all. I know what I'm doing. I have, millions of dollars of equipment. I have all of this stuff. But you know what? If you don't, you have to go back to what you just said. Go back to its origin. I mean, I see guys, whether they're batting or whether they are pitching, I'm looking at their stance and I'm like, you guys have no idea how much you do of the arts. You have no idea.
I believe that.
I mean, it is
like Sanchin and
like the Sanchin and like for you guys, especially, they get into more of a cat stance than they possibly even know. And then the translation of that, okay, well, what we do from this stance in leopard, we're learning how to develop what we call dynamic speed. Mm-hmm. Dynamic is not enduring speed, it's dynamic. It is a force of change.
Yep.
That's what dynamic is.
Yep.
We become the force. So as a batter, you have to be the force of change, because guess what? You got a pitcher that's going to change consistently every time you get up to bat.
Every time.
And so you cannot be someone that has a center, because leopard is all about the center. We put our fingers, when we do leopard, I make them focus on those fingers. And while their body is doing everything else, they have to focus here. And the idea or the understanding of that is that leopard, no matter what changes come, no matter what flow, it can move this way, it can move left, right, forward, backwards, it doesn't matter. The eyes are always on the center. Mm-hmm. A batter has to be able to apply that in a mindset. I will always find my center. No matter what changes come, I will be the force of change, not the pitcher.
Yeah, and I love that. So I'm a non-traditional person as far as like, I don't like to use phrases that everybody else uses all the time, right? Because I feel like there's some loss in translation, right? I try to be very specific in what I'm saying because the kid in front of me is specific and they're individual, right? But I think that understanding it in a different term, like literally, like my mind is just rolling now with like exactly what you're talking about. It's like, that's hitting. That's hitting. That's exactly what you're talking about. Like, that's hitting. I'm staying in my center. I'm moving from my center. I'm doing this while my eyes are staying fixated. Like, and that's why it's so important for people to hear this. And that's why it's so important for this, what you're doing, to be able to get to every athlete possible, right? Because there's so much to it. And I think baseball's bad about this. I think a lot of industries are like this, but they get very fixated on the specific sport specific move or sport specific this, and it's like it's just movement, really.
And it's been around for a long time.
It's been around for a long time.
Yeah, I mean, it really is. I mean, and I disagree. There's a lot of things I'll disagree with, as far as the mechanics of things, like why are you doing it that way? Everybody has, they're like, well, I need to create something new because, and I understand, marketing aspect of it.
That's
I really don't care. I don't care about the marketing. I really don't care. It's about the performance. I'd rather have Mark be able to then go, that I can explain without me having to go into a massive 2-hour dissertation about it.
Yes.
It's actually about you doing the action. And then I've done my job. I've done my job to be able to translate that enough to allow Mark to be able to coach and to be able to help those individuals that really need it. I mean, his ability to be able, and I'm really kind of helping play. But I watched Mark over a year and a half, and I know Zing would, not only agree, but he's been there. I'm somebody somewhat quote unquote outsider looking in.
Yeah.
But just watching how Mark teaches is basically a phenomenal way for even kids. And I mean, I think he would be phenomenal for not just college. I think he would be great for even some of the pros, because the facts is that the way he teaches is not just some mechanical idea. Right. It's literally putting everything in it. This man has more passion than I've ever seen. When I come in and Mark's not here, it's kind of like, come on, where's Mark? Where's his socks? I miss the socks.
Yeah. I love it.
That kind of thing. It's a beautiful. He's actually, and he's got this beautiful shirt on. So I mean, it's just exciting to watch these guys. And it's more humbling for me to be able to be a part of professionals that do this. I mean, I'm not going to sit there and profess that I'm some guru of baseball. I just see it and go, okay, this is what I'm seeing. This is what I should be able to do. Use your breath, and we have different types of breath. So,
I love that. I love that
collaboration too, Cam. Where it's like, I think one of the biggest carryovers to all of it, and you mentioned it in our Chunqua class, but where it's Chunqua is to adapt, to adjust. Oral Hershiser used to say that baseball should not be called baseball; it should be called adjustments.
100%.
Like there's so many of us where it's like, and that's why I love these workouts and the mindsets and all of it, because it teaches you to adjust in the moment. It's not like, hey, I'm going to always do the same thing. It's like we talk about, and people tell you to repeat. You don't repeat anything. You got 7 trillion new cells in your body every day. You don't even repeat how you brushed your teeth yesterday. Okay. You got new stuff going on. So anybody that, yes, we want to be consistent.
Yes.
And we want to find our flow, but there's adjustments in that flow.
100%.
And especially for a hitter, because they're reacting to what we're doing. For us, there's yes, we have to adapt to the elements of the umpire that day, maybe the weather that day, different catcher, different team, whatever. But I think the more we can learn how to adjust and adapt in our workouts, the easier it is to keep that mindset on the field.
Yeah, I love that. And I think there's 2 examples that come to my mind as you mentioned that is, one is Pete Alonso, right? He's got his routine that he says that he does. So I need to do these things. He says, I need to do these things so I can feel X. But he said, then I have to figure out who I am that day. And then that is what I do to prep. And then that's what I use BP for, is who I am that day. And I don't know what that's going to be. Right. And another one is Justin Turner. Right. So, Patrick, if you haven't been around baseball a whole lot, so this guy, Justin Turner, right, plays for the Dodgers, been a perennial for the Dodgers for a long time. I don't know, like going on like 7 or 8 years now. And so he was on his way out of the league in like 2012, 2013. And so he ended up getting around a teammate that got around this really cool hitting guy who's just very simple, right? But does a lot the mindset stuff of like what we're talking about, stuff very similar, right? And so he went from that, then signed a minor league contract deal with the Dodgers, and he hadn't looked back since then. And he essentially, his quote was, the point at which I struggled was, and he said, what I think most major league guys struggle with is they say, well, why would I change what I do? Because what I do got me here. And he said, if you're willing to get rid of that mindset, and if you're willing to adapt, then you can stick. And he said, almost all of those guys that I've heard say that aren't in the league anymore because of that.
Yeah. Yeah. They're just afraid. They're afraid to do it.
Right. It's ego. Like you said, it's ego. It's
complete 100% ego. If we can't learn to drop our egos, I mean, trust me, I have an ego probably 10 times greater than most. I mean, I really do. I am it's basically, I'm an arrogant man learning to be humble every day. I never say I'm humble. I'm not humble. Anyone that says they're humble is arrogant in just that statement alone.
Fair.
It really is. I mean, I think we all deal with ego every day. I mean, I get in there a lot.
Humbled, right?
Yeah,
being humble doesn't mean we're humble. We're
exactly.
Being humble.
We are being humble, you know. And I know this because I'm about myself. You know, I get in there and I'll do some things like this, and I'll see these guys. I'm 51, and so I get in there. I'm like, you can't beat me. I'm 51 years old. I don't care who you are, where you come from. I don't care how much money you make, and I don't care how many times you pitched. And what's funny is half of these guys I don't know, and they probably think I should know them, and I don't. I'm like, okay, and who are you, and what do you do? Yeah, so unless these guys prep me, this is so and so. I'm like, oh, okay, great. I don't really care, you know. And I'm like, but I had that kind of like a little bit of that, but it's, you know, in a good place. I think. I hope
it's fun to watch.
That's awesome.
But it goes back to the simple thing. We all have to deal with the ego. And if we can do that, then we continue to grow. It's not changing who you are. It's growing into what you should be.
That's it. It's a growth part, right? If people can make that distinction, it's like, I'm not asking you to change all of that. I'm asking you to grow. Because as you grow, and I tell my guys every single week, as I was like, if you come back looking the exact same, I'm going to send you home. So if your swing doesn't look a little bit different, I'm sending you home. Yeah. Because that means that I'm the only one doing work, and I am not doing that. I can't do that. And like, I'm not asking you to have it figured out. I'm not asking you to be there. I'm not asking anything. I'm asking you to grow. That's all, right? Because even if you just do 100 squats in between one week to 1 week, you're gonna move different because your body will have adjusted just a little bit, right? Sure. And so, like, I think that's the biggest thing that so many people struggle with is that they see it as change when really it's just growth. So I think that's a huge. Yeah, that's huge, man. I love that. I love that those guys are getting that.
Silence too, right? Or it happens in the dark. We got a little board up here, but we talk about reap and sow, right? You always reap and sow in different seasons, but a lot of times that initial growth, you dig the hole. I was talking to Libby this morning about this, and it was like, you could dig a hole in crappy soil and plant the same seed versus like if you have good soil that you've prepped and then you dig that hole there. So it's like part of that's your mindset. Right? Where it's like, if you have good mindset and you're willing to do the work, you're going to grow a lot better, you know. And if you're like Mark likes to say that real G's operate like lasagna in silence, but it's like, not everybody needs to see everything you do. Now, as coaches, yes, and we do share stuff, and we like guys to see what you can do, but the stuff that I share is probably 1/100th of the activity I have in a day. I'm not going and just, hey, I'm going to do one exercise today. I'm a video and act like I'm just all this and that. It's like, no, I did 99 other things that you didn't see. I just happened to share something because I wanted to help whoever, you know, and it's like, there's a difference with that. And I think once growth stops is when we get stagnant. And I like to stay away from stagnant people. I like growth mindset people, like people that even challenge me to keep growing in ways that maybe I never thought of, or ways that, you know, and that's where Sifu's came in. And it's like, although it's our mindsets are so similar, they're also different, you know? So it's like continuing to challenge, I never thought of it that way. And it's like, I think because we have that growth mindset all together, like we're all growing uniquely, you know, and
I love that.
It's fun. And that's why we do this, right? Because we're doing this for our growth as well as for helping other guys, but also we enjoy talking to each other. We know we're we're coming from the same heart space, and now it's just like, hey, different lens. We got 4 different lenses going right now, and it's
I'm
like,
all about it, man. You can put freaking 12 people on here. I'm all about it. Like because for me, there's no it, right? I can't get it, and like that's why if there is a it, it's getting it being right. Right. That's all I care about.
Right.
That's all there is to it. Right. Because what goes back to what you said earlier, Patrick. It's like, it's about the athlete. Period. There's nothing else. There's nothing else to do.
There really is. That's what the animals are doing. They adapt. What do you think animals do in nature? They grow. They have to adapt. Otherwise, they die.
Literally.
They cannot adapt. They cannot. They can't hunt. They can't do anything. There's a growth to this. They're learning how to adapt. They find within themselves. In other words, they're finding who they are, what they are in themselves. If you constantly, and I'm not saying that we all have heroes and we go, oh, I look up to this individual and I want to kind of be like this individual. And you may have similarities like this pitcher or that batter or whatever, or even a catcher. The thing is that you still have to be you. You're not Nolan Ryan.
That's it.
You're not a Steve Garvey. You're not a Ron Say. You're not any of those individuals.
That's right.
You are who you are.
That's right.
And you need to be able to grow in that. Stop trying to be someone you're not.
That's right.
And that's what the animals do for me. In the arts,
I love that.
Especially in Omei, you're talking Tao, you're talking Tibet, and you're talking Shaolin. They actually came together, exchanged knowledge, and shared information to grow. It wasn't for them to go, okay, now the basics are still the same. You're still going to have to learn how to root. You're still going to have to, the basics are the basics. I mean, these are the roots that you have to understand. But as the individual grows, it takes on yourself. The tiger, you're not being the tiger. You are a tiger. You are Crane. You are. Because everything within them is a personality or a characteristic that's already innate within you. All these animals are doing is showing you who you are.
That's right. I love that because people don't think about this phraseology, but you used it right there. You said you are, right? So whenever we say I am, I'm taking ownership of whatever follows after that. Whatever it is, if it's a negative, like whatever you say after that, you are owning that inside. Right. And so like that's it right there. Cause I feel like with social media does a lot of good things. I'm not taking away from that. Right. But like there's a lot of people that just think, hey, if I do these 4 steps, or there's a copycat rope. Right. And as long as I walk along that, like I'll be okay. When in reality, you can't be that because you aren't that. Even if you're just this much different than that person, you're different. And so like process different, you think different, you walk different, you deal with issues different, like all those different things. But like that's the key is you are, or I am that. I take ownership of that, right? Like there was a buddy I grew up with he's a Native American, and so they've got like animals that they like kind of like assign to people, right? And so like I remember, so it's all based on like very similar like characteristics, right? And like I remember when he explained to me what he thought I was, and it like hit it spot on the head. And so like, but I went and like studied it, right? And like I was like, oh yeah, that makes sense. Oh yeah, man, that makes sense. Oh wow, that's super cool. So like I am that, right? I've got a shirt with the animal on it, right? My brothers have shirts with the animals on it, right? And it's like, my middle brother is a wolf, right? And he is absolutely a wolf, right? So it's super important to just understand that what I say isn't as important as what I own. And so like I am a tiger, I am a crane, like that, the end. Right. And I am operating within that.
It is the word I am, and it's actually a very old word, and very old word. I mean, I think every culture has it. But one of the best descriptions of what I am comes from, actually it was told to me and I actually studied it out. It means I will be what I will be. I will become what I need to become. It's literally, I am everything you see, everything you do not see. That's right. But the key aspect is what you don't see. It's not what everybody sees. It's in what you don't see. It was like what Zing said. It's in those private times. It's when you're in the silence. That is the essence, because I could be anything I need to be in front of someone.
That's right.
But the essence of who I am is when I'm by myself. So I am needs to be secure in self, in who and what you are as that individual. You know, that's the reason, you know, I like to pick on Mark, because when I see Mark is totally secure within himself. I mean, I would never wear the socks that he wears. I would not wear the stuff that he wears ever. I just won't. That's just not, but that's not me.
Yeah.
This man knows who he is, you know, and why would you not have that individual be a part of your growth when you have individuals like that actually know? Zing doesn't profess to be something that he's not. He goes in there and he is who he is. He wears his snowshoes. He comes in, he plays his funky music, and God help us with the music. Okay. I'm, you know, but other music, I'm like, what?
On, baby.
You know, I don't understand music. I really don't. I'm like, I literally have to go through a meditation before my training, because I'm like, okay, this is not working for me. You know, this is a good training for me. I mean, I'm learning some stuff already.
That's great. That's great. That's great. That's great.
These guys are absolutely, it's who they are, what they are. That's why people are drawn to this place.
Yeah.
You know, and, you know, people go, well, you're paid to say that. No, I'm not. These guys know. I mean, what I do on the outside versus what I do here, I'm about the athlete. I could give a rat's, can I say it?
Yeah, you can. It's fine.
A rat's ass about, you know, your money or what you do and how you do with it, you know? And that's as simple as that. Sure, everybody wants to get money, but that's not the goal. That's not the essence of what we're doing here. We're here to bring together a community. Like you said, you know, it's like, let's get 12 of us in here. Let's actually develop a mindset and create, like, wow, wait a minute, I could have done, I could use this, I could do this, or I could do that. And it just helps the growth when we sit here and go, no, it's mine, it's mine, it's mine. The hoarding mindset, you're going to be stagnant. And my old Sifu used to tell me, he says, you know what a grave is? It's stagnation.
That's right.
He says, you know what's worse than that? It becomes a rut with two ends knocked out. You're living in a grave with no end. And it's like, wow.
Yeah.
You know?
I love that. Yeah, that's so great, man. It's just a different, people have got to get there as people and understanding, and then understand that will translate into the athlete, because processing the things that you're saying, working through that is so important, right? So I call some of what you're saying, I call it like an alpha mindset, right? And it's like an alpha mindset is not, I got to win every time, F everybody else. It's just, you don't give up. You don't quit, and you adjust, right? Like my wife is more of an introvert, right? Just naturally than I am, right? And so she's just not as big of a risk taker, right? I'll see a cliff and jump off and figure out what's at the bottom when I hit the bottom, right? It's not always a good way to do it, right? But I'm a risk taker, right? And so, but man, like, she's stepping into that, her own version of alpha, right? She steps out and she's like, I'm going to start my own business. And I'm like, all right, girl, let's go. Let's get it. And it's so cool to watch that bloom. And it's never a perfected thing that you can bottle up, because it's growth, right? Just like we're talking about. It's because and she's killing it, right? And she has these meetings and she does these things, and I'm like, girl, like, you get it. This is freaking awesome to watch. You're alphaing this, and it doesn't look like it does for me, right? And it's because those moments in silence that are the essence. That's exactly right what you said.
Right. And prosperity comes when you're secure in that, you know, because prosperity is like, you know, instead of worrying about and how much money you're going to make and what you're supposed to do, like your wife, she was already in a process. It's about her passion about what she does. And she's going to become, and she's already successful because of that. That's why these guys are successful.
Yes.
Is because they already established who they are and what they are. And when they're bringing in people, they're more concerned. And what they're about is about the individual.
Yeah.
It's about the growth of the individual. Prosperity comes and abundance comes from that, not the other way around.
That's right.
Not the other way around. And poor athlete, unfortunately, when they get to especially to a specific area, then it's like, oh, I got to make this. I got to make, now money becomes an issue. It becomes more of a stress issue because now I've got to make sure that I don't get hurt. I got to do all. So they go through all of these stresses in life. And and then what happens is the game, and you guys correct me if I'm wrong, the game now is more mechanical. Okay, I got to do, and it's now it becomes more stress.
And you see in workouts,
like that, right?
It's like you see the guys try out, and I've been in those shoes, but it's like all of a sudden it's this time of year and you're trying out and everybody else is playing. And now it's like all of a sudden you start pressing because you think you need to do more. And when you do more, you're not doing what you do. You're not, so it's like anytime somebody says like 110% to me, I'm like, bullshit. There's no such thing as 110%. I would rather see a guy that can get out to 80, 90% and practice at 80, 90%, like we were talking about a couple times ago, where it was like 80, 90% in game with adrenaline is your 100%.
That's right.
But it looks easier,
That's right.
Effortless.
But that and guys, as athletes, like that's the part that you got to get about this, right? Is everything they're saying shapes who you are as an athlete, because the athlete is secondary. It's not primary. And so like the ability to understand this and buy into that will then in turn make you a better athlete, right? And I think that's how Patrick can look at a guy, his swing, and tell you what's wrong with it. Not because he knows the swing, but because he can see he's looking at the person. He's looking at the other things that are driving the athlete. So that primary part is where you have to start. So I think that's gold. And there's a reason that Fuel Factory is doing what it's doing, right? The entity itself is doing what it's doing. There's no place other in the country. Well, I can think of one other place, but like where pitchers and hitters have live at bats and they talk afterwards. And they're like, hey man, like if you'll stay a little bit longer here, there's no way I'm going to be able to hit that ball. Like it just doesn't happen. It just doesn't happen. So like that's the seeds of it, right? And there's a reason that all these pro guys and all these high school, like they keep coming there because it's the environment that you guys are building and have built and will continue to build. And that's what these guys, like, that's what you as the listener or the watcher, that's what you have to get to. Whether you're a dad, a mom, a coach, a player, like that's what you got to get to, right? It's very rarely what you see is what's going on. Just like you said, it's that you don't see.
Yeah, it's what you don't see. And I think that's a very old statement in a leadership format. It's still the thing. It's what you do when no one is looking. Are you up? What time are you getting up? Are you getting up at 10 versus someone that's we have kids here. One in particular is that really stands out in my mind. He's a young player. He came in. We had all college, but this kid is it was Christian, and he's just this little kid, and he's coming in where we're like in the middle of all of this, but he wants to learn. He started, and his mind is like, and then yet he's able to focus on this, and yet he's doing everything he's got for his own sport. And then guess what? He gets signed, if you will. They actually signed. I didn't know this, but they do. They actually, mom comes and says, sign a contract. I went, what? What does that mean? So he's playing on a team and he's doing very well. But that's a testament to basically not just me, but what we do here as a whole.
Yeah.
I'm just part of it. I'm not the end result of it. And I think that's what you find here that's different. It's not about, Patrick Curtis and all this. I just add to basically the beautiful circular path that we do here. Yeah. If that makes sense.
No, that's great. It's an entity, right? Like it's a organism that needs several parts it can function without the several parts, but all the extra good parts do is just exponentially expand it and grow it, right? Because that's the deal, man. That's why you do what you do. So freaking Christian can get on a team and does well. It doesn't matter if he's freaking 9 or he's 29. It doesn't matter. That's the whole deal. Because that kid literally is gonna walk around with a smile on his face all the time. Yeah. And that's when the pro guys lose it, when they stop smiling.
Yeah.
That's when they lose it. That's when they get hurt. That's when all that stuff happens because they stop smiling.
Yeah, they lose their passion. They lose, they lose who they are in the game. I mean, they are the game. I've told these guys that 100 million times. I'm sorry, I may be taking over too much. I'm
you're
very
great.
passionate about what goes on here. But I can tell you right now, I've told these guys many times. I said, "Do you want to be immortal?" You know, and I'm like, "You can't be immortal." Yeah, you can. And I see, you see these guys on the wall, you know, and I'm like, these guys have been immortalized. I said, what is your legacy going to be? I said, you're playing a game that has a massive amount of legacy.
Oh yeah.
A massive. It's the American game. This is where moms and dads brought their kids from the old. This was one of the best times that they would go. We're talking a massive amount of legacy. Now, with all the crap that goes on, the game in it itself is the purest of the game, in the game itself. I said, what are you going to do? Which part of the legacy are you going to take? Because you're part of a legacy that is going to be continuing on what it's going to be in the future. Are you going to be the one that is on that side of the legacy, which is all about, you know, the fame and the money, or are you about the legacy to help inspire? Because no matter how many times you think you're not, I don't want to be that guy. I don't want to be that guy. I don't want to be that guy. You are that guy.
Yeah, that's right.
Every time you step on the mound, every time you're behind the plate or on the plate, it does not matter. They still look at you.
That's right.
And they still go, okay, this is a pure, be the purity of the game and still have that fun and passion about the game.
Yeah. That's so good. That's it. Yeah. If you're listening to this, rewind that and listen to that again. That was really good. Man, Patrick, you're the man, brother. I wanted to come out to Arizona anyway, but now I need to come I need to extend it a week so I can just listen some more and hang out.
That'd be fun.
Yeah, man. I'm talking with the wife, trying to figure out when I get out there. But man, y'all are awesome. Patrick, absolute privilege, man. Truly. I mean that. I mean that. And man, Zing and Mark, y'all are my dudes, man. So I appreciate y'all. And man, this was a fun one. So yeah, that y'all are gonna. I would listen to that as many times as you can because there's just so much good stuff in there from those guys. And so y'all are awesome. So thanks for listening, and we'll see you on the next episode.
Awesome. All right. Thank you.
Thank you so much for watching. I'm sure you were able to get a lot out of that. So because of that, make sure that you share this, right? Make sure that you put it out on social media, on your stories. Make sure that you subscribe, give us a 5-star review, because our passion is to see the game grow, and our passion is to see you become the best baseball or softball player that you can. So go ahead and do that for us, and I can't wait to see you on the next episode.